who you're talking to is often not who you're talking to. Think about it in terms of like archetypes, where each archetype determines the voice that you project to another. So, for example, you could be talking to someone you've spoken to many times before, but you find yourself trying to convince them of something. Your communication is driven by a need to be understood. The fact that you feel misunderstood puts you in a position of pleading with another or encouraging them to listen to what you're saying, believe you, trust you, follow along. When you start to pay attention to these patterns in conversation, you start to pick up on how there's a certain archetype or a certain person that you're speaking to in the world. And that person is the blueprint for most of the communication that you make. Now, to speak more concretely, you can go back to your childhood where most things have actually originated, or some sort of formative moment within your life. And you can see how that drives how you speak. For example, if you have a father or a mother who doesn't believe you, who doesn't trust you, who belittles you, who doesn't see you as your light or who you are, then you'll tend to look at the world, especially authority figures, in that way. You may lose trust within yourself, have difficulty then in communication, because everyone that you're speaking to becomes an extension of that. Now, when you start to pay attention to how you're speaking and what you're speaking to other people, you start to get very clear on signaling. Signaling is what you're projecting at any given moment. Now, whenever you find yourself qualifying within a conversation, that creates a signal disruption. It's where you're speaking many different things at the same time. Any qualification, any hedging, any amount of convincing only indicates that you yourself are not convinced, or you yourself do not believe that you are a trustworthy source when you're communicating. And this is important because what people actually hear is less what you're saying and more indicative of signal strength. When you speak clearly and directly, people tend not to question what you have to say. Think about that in terms of leadership. Leaders within the world politicians and the like. Not that they're necessarily the high watermark. But when you speak directly to people and you're clear in what you're saying, then the signal is strong. Even if what you're saying is not correct, people tend to question it less. Now, what I'm driving at with this video is signal integrity. What it is you're communicating to others is every bit as much as what's actually happening inside of you. And when you have created patterns with friends and family and other people within your life, patterns where you have surrounded yourself with people who don't understand you, or you feel misunderstood, or you feel like people aren't listening to you, then that becomes an extension of all the communication you make within the world. And from that, you create a lot of split signaling. Now, to build on this idea of split signaling, we can analogize it through like a garden hose. If you imagine a garden hose where it's spraying directly, it's going to saturate, but a garden hose where you stick your thumb on the end sprays in all directions, but doesn't really saturate anything. And I think this is a core issue that many people face, especially in this day and age. But the issue is that you're unable to really get far or get anywhere with your life because your signal is split. You're communicating many different things, but not really directing anything. And when you're able to begin to direct, you're able to find the voice you carry inside of you. And when you find the voice that's inside of you, you don't question. You speak directly to anyone that you meet, anyone you encounter, any instant, you're very clear. Your yeses are very strong yeses. Your nos are very strong nos. There is no such thing as a maybe. But you're very clear, and then you're only responding to your yeses and nos in the moment. When you're communicating to someone, you're being very direct, very clear. And when you aren't, well, it indicates to you where you're still growing, where you're still healing, and where you're actually gaining clarity. So for the most part, anyone you encounter is going to be splitting their signal in some way. And these are the places that are not quite online inside of them yet. The places where they're still getting clear. But when you begin to listen to what you're saying, pay attention to who you're drawing with in your life. Who are you attracting? Who are you communicating to on a regular basis? That gives you an indication of your signal. So what I've done in my own life is I have begun to pay attention to that. With relationships where I'm splitting my signal, I begin to pull back. With people that are unclear that come to me, I listen for what it is that they are asking me, what it is they're wanting to know, what it is that they've come for. I'm moving out of anticipating. I'm moving out of putting words in someone else's mouth. I've moved out of creating relationships where I'm not understood or where I can't be heard. Now, this is a lot different than to say that one has it all figured out. The world still reflects back, and you still have this feedback loop in everything that you're doing. But when you're clear within yourself and you begin to speak in a very clear manner, in a very clear signal, then you begin to create relationships where people can receive you, they can see you, they can co-create with you, and they can vibe with you. You're in the same resonant pattern, right? You're able to be resonant with them. You're able to harmonize. So for much of my life, and this is why I'm making this video, but for much of my life, I had not been in harmony. I've been trying to convince people of something that I was not convinced of myself. I was trying to bring people along. But now I follow more of a pattern of magnetism. I allow things to come to me. I allow people to come to me. I allow myself to be misunderstood or not fully comprehended, because it is not my responsibility to ensure that everyone understands. If I understand and I'm clear within myself, that is enough. And then if I surround myself with not yes people, but people who confirm my truth, confirm what it is that I know intrinsically, that I've lived as an experience, something I feel to my core. People that can vibe with that with me and create harmonized relationships of integrity. I create that, and there's an immense potency. So the more time, energy, and effort you apply to people that can't hear you, or institutions, or situations, or things along those lines, the more that you're going to be splitting your signal. What you begin to do is you begin to listen to who's showing up. How do you feel after the interaction? Was your signal, was your message clear? Were you hedging what you were saying? Were you qualifying? Were you saying, oh, maybe, or, some of the time, or were you scrunching? Was your voice changing? It's a very strong indication. When you are not in your clear signal, your voice will change. You'll feel it become tight. I've heard people go hoarse. I've heard people clear their throat when they aren't clear themselves. So when you pay attention to who's showing up, what you're communicating, how you felt after the interaction, whether it's building something within you or whether it's breaking something down, every interaction has value because every interaction is bringing a mirror back to you, reflecting you back to yourself. When you are clear within yourself, then you create relationships of clarity, and you create bonds and relationships that are resonant, harmonized, connective. And then you choose. You can choose to debate somebody. You can choose to have a conversation, constructive, respectful. You can have people not agree with you and be perfectly fine with that. It has taken me a long time to get to this point, but I can have a conversation with somebody now, and they don't have to believe what I believe. They don't have to construct their reality based upon how I construct my reality, and I don't have to take it personally. And that capacity to listen to what's coming to you, listen to the person that's in front of you, to hear yourself speak, and to become clear, well, that's immensely powerful. When you're clear within yourself, the world is not muddy. When you're clear within yourself, you don't get lost because you're inwardly directed. And when you're clear within yourself, you don't look for an outside voice to confirm you because you've already found your inside voice. So I want to thank you for connecting in with this video. I appreciate the time and the space. I love to speak and to share and to be heard. And any wisdom I have does not belong to me. And it's something that is a beauty that we all carry. But when we share it together, it can grow. So thank you for joining me. Thank you.